Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for attending this session. As many people said before, this is, I think, event number 8, 9, maybe 10, big party next year. And I see a lot of faces that I know, but it's promising also to see a lot of new faces. Obviously, I cannot dive into as much detail as one of the inventors, Olivier, did in his previous session. But there will be some technical stuff at the end for those of you interested in getting more range out of devices, because that still seems to be a challenge. But I first want to go back a little bit in terms of history and show to you why I've chosen this title in terms of the casino. I'm very glad that I found this picture in an airport at some point. I don't know if you have kids or if you play with Lego, but if you have listened to my earlier sessions in the years before, you know that I've been preaching quite a bit about addressing the market with Lego blocks. And I hear this resonate today also at the event in terms of building zero-touch, simple building blocks that everybody can use. And there's a reason for that, because if everybody has to go into the detail where we were, let's say, 5 or 10 years ago, the TCO will explode. You just need to know too much. You will need a lot of time. And time to value, that's what Winke likes to call it, is going to be enormous. In our business, I'm in the antenna business, on the device side, time to revenue is typically 24 months. And that's the first revenue. And we want to try to shrink that, even if that's challenging. But doing so is by approaching it like Lego. And of course, I was proud to see my name on the Lego box, Groot. It comes from a brilliant movie. But the question that this Groot character has asked is, where are the unicorns in this industry? The only thing I've seen over the past 10 years is M&A, driven by either good or bad financial results, but a lot of consolidation going on, but I don't see unicorns. And that's kind of scary. I'll explain to you why I find that scary and how I look at it, but we should see, after 10 years, maybe 15, maybe 20, we should see some people really stepping up to the plate and making billions out of this industry. And there is a reason why there is a 10 plus on this box. I guess everybody knows, because it means you should be 10 years or older to be able to construct this model. So if you are not 10 years in this industry, don't try to dive into all the details, because you will fail. And the only way to solve that with Lego is follow the manual. Open the box, go step by step, and you can build the most complex models. Of course, we are all a little bit older than 10, but this is reflecting on the experience that you have for all the things that you need: hardware, software, firmware, satellite, network, gateway, and it goes on and on. So I think that, again, a reflection on the past. Maybe you remember this big Red Bull racing car with Max Verstappen, which is this year a little bit painful to talk about, but hopefully he'll make it. But Red Bull basically has very good marketing materials, and when I saw that, I was like, okay, this kind of reflects my own feeling on how we are dealing in IoT with the problems that we face. We have to learn a lot of tricks, and everything needs to fit, because otherwise you will see this guy will die. But more important, maybe it's a very long road to success. This only lasts 30 seconds, but let's see how much tricks this guy must perform. That's the firmware. Here comes the antenna. Let's choose a radio module. Oh, the gateway jump. There we go. Now an operator and an integrator. Off we go. Satellite being introduced. New challenge. There comes my IoT. Oh, the Sigfox stairs. And yes. This is how it feels to be in this industry. And I'm a good bike rider. I'm Dutch, but I can't do this shit. So, what is the status of the market today? I've been looking at this as a, let's say, as a horizontal provider, because device antennas typically don't care about the radio protocol too much. So we provide services to everybody in the industry in terms of from a radio perspective. And it's very clear that Bluetooth is leading the way. Everybody uses it, and there's many reasons for that. But the overarching reason that I found why Bluetooth is so successful is, first of all the big brands behind it, all the big names. That just gives enormous number of feet on the street for people pushing it. Of course, the technology works, but all these technology work, so that's not the issue. There's a big differentiator between some of the other stuff on this slide because it's royalty-free. You can just start working with it. In Wi-Fi, which was invented either by Ericsson or by C0 in Australia, there's a bit of a discussion about that. It all started also in the last century, and it became basically successful with the Apple Airport, but also a Microsoft router, and then nowadays everybody has it in his house. The big bang was the mobile phone, when the mobile phone started connecting to Wi-Fi. Same story, big brands, royalty-free, the market adapts it, and you get this massive, massive industry. And I can tell you this reflects how many antennas we sell into all these radios. Then we have the cellular world. Whether I'm happy with that or not, the cellular world is complex, also from our antenna perspective. But it does about 1 billion radios this year. The NB-IoT, LTM, Cat1Bs, all these, let's say, IoT type of connectivities. So this doesn't include mobile phones, right? It's just IoT. And I think, let me make a statement that maybe goes into the history books. They're making a strategic mistake by introducing RedCap, because most customers that I talk to don't understand RedCap and don't need RedCap, and for sure don't need another sunset. So they're asking, you know, what if I put it in my meters and I use NB-IoT or Cat1Bs? What is this RedCap going to do, and when is it going to come? Let's see if history repeats itself, that sunset is, you know, holding the market back. But the last and least player on this one, and they should be proud of being here with LoRa, and then the LoRa Alliance with LoRaWAN, because at least this LP1 technology made it on this slide. All the others that you hear about, that Olivier didn't want to mention, don't even do, you know, 10 million radios per year. The one thing that I would recommend Semtech to consider, and I know the CEO is around here somewhere, but there's plenty of Semtech people, is break open the technology. Give it away. Make sure it's available. Put it in routers. Put it in chips, and give it either in a front or a freeway to the industry. Because I think that's the only way to achieve the numbers that the top two radios, Wi-Fi and BLE, are doing. So now to the title of my industry. I don't know who of you recognize this picture. It's a picture from Beecham, but when I saw it, it reminded me of a casino. At the end, Beecham has built this picture for all the use cases, and all the little boxes in there represent the use case. To me, this just shows that it's massive. And the massiveness also leads to the fact that there is no single unicorn in any of these industries. But I can tell you, smart metering is a good market to be in. There's millions and millions of smart meters being deployed. Second for us is tracking devices. Those use cases are smaller, but Hapag-Lloyd has 3 million connected containers, so it starts being interesting. And last but not least, wearables. Wearables are also picking up quite well, however, not so much with LoRa technology. Now, the problem that we always face, and that is what we hear on our side by just being the antenna, is, okay, but what do I choose? How do I choose? What is the best radio technology? What is the best radio network? What is the best system integrator, et cetera, et cetera? And if we don't simplify this for the industry by providing better and more simple building blocks and guidance, the users feel like they're in a casino, and they feel like they're placing a bet. And as a result, they ask you to do a POC, and you're going to sell 50 pieces and wait for another 2 years for the POC to finalize. So, in summary here, we have to make it more simple like Lego blocks. We have to cross the chasm with partners. I think the LoRa ecosystem is kind of a proof of that. There's a lot of partners here that all seem to be working well together, so that's good. And we have to provide a clear time to value in terms of not so much the TCO. It's not so important whether a tracker is $25 or $30. It's much more important that it provides value for the use case and that it works wherever it needs to work. Back to Ignion. We are an antenna company, So we feel, and I really feel, I've gone down to the cellar of the value chain. Antennas are not considered critical, but if you want to avoid X times repetition, you better make sure your output power, your TRP in LoRa, is 14 dBs. That's what you're allowed to do. Nobody will check if you do 14.5 or 15, so that would be another trick, but I won't recommend it. But that is another trick to get more range. We make sure that your devices and any device operate at that limit that is required. The cellular industry works the other way around. They have minimal limits, so there you have to have 18 dBms, which also explains the difference in power consumption, because you simply need more power in the air. We've been doing this for many, many years. The people on the slide are the inventors. Their technology is in your pocket, because all our IP is also in mobile phones. But for the IoT, we had to invent something else. So we invented the virtual antenna, the little red part here. That red part works like a drumstick, meaning that your PCB, if you're designing a device, becomes the drum. This red part the stick, and we tune it with a few passives. That is not an easy job. It's a mathematical, and today an AI ML job. I'll show you later how we do that. But at the end of the day, we do about 3,000 designs. So our engineers can truly help you when you have a challenge on range, a challenge on power consumption, or a challenge on space, because all these devices always get smaller and smaller. How do we do that? I don't like all the people talking about making things more simple and not providing the answer. Here's the answer for you. This is a platform that we have built over the last 3 years, where there is tens of thousands of devices and simulations inside, and it uses AI and ML to predict what the performance is going to be. I put the logo on the bottom because we have been funded by the European Union. Thank you very much for that. As a small Barcelona scale-up, we were not able to put the millions in that were needed. But the platform allows you to put in your PCB size, which is the black thing, and it will tell you where to put the antenna, how to connect it, and what performance you should expect. And to make it even better, we even let you change that, because your customer will come back and say, well, that tracker needs to fit into these 2 corners here, so it needs to be 12 millimeters smaller, and it can be 20 millimeters wider. As you can see, now I can use this. As you can see, you can play with the dimensions. You can play with the so-called feeding line, which is this black thing here and has an impact on the antenna performance. And then you will see immediately the impact on the antenna performance. In the next version, we'll even translate this for you to battery consumption and to range in a LoRa world or in a cellular world or whatever radio world you're in. And I have a question for you, or a gift. What we have done specifically for the new radios and the satellite stuff with LoRa also, developed a new antenna. It's a bit bigger than what you're used to, but it outperforms any chip antenna in the market, and it enables you to use LoRa, the satellite components in the 1800 megahertz bands or GNSS, as well as the 2.4 bands, whether it being the 2.4 for LoRa or Wi-Fi BLE, into one antenna. And this has a big benefit, because at the end of the day, you don't have to place 3 antennas, which is a nightmare. Second, it uses less space. For people here in the audience, and I saw this is going to end up in YouTube, so let's see that not Mark Munoz gets crazy. But there is his email address. If you want a few parts of this, please send him an email. He will provide them to you after Electronica, because that's when we formally launch it. But I thought I'd bring it forward here, because I see all these NTN networks coming up, the satellite networks, and that's going to be a challenge for most of you to develop proper devices with both the radios inside. With that, I've come to the end of the presentation, so I hope this was a clear story, and I look forward to see you in the future in the LoRa domain. Thank you.